But to start off, let's go into the most sexy of all things. Education.
Ooh.
Yeah, make that brain soft and wet. Healthy.
Bro, what the fuck?
Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Maker's Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to a very merry episode of the Music Maker's Cookbook, a podcast where we help independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I'm your chef, Sean.
I'm Brandon.
I was gonna give you a
I had
accolade
to,
of a
I
chef.
had to say it.
but
Oh,
he's-
really?
He's just Brandon.
I'm
but
just the assistant.
I guess he's just the sous chef today.
Yes, that's what that's called. Yes, sous chef.
No, you're equal standing with me, man. We're both chefs.
Yeah, but you have the Michelin star. The Michelin star thing is such an interesting marketing thing.
Yeah, it's actually like a tire company that was
Yeah.
to promote travel and it just became this big culinary thing.
Yeah.
And that happened. We should cover like the way different.
We should.
We
should.
Right off the bat, we already put down topic ideas.
Yeah, look
about
at
how
that.
different industries influence other industries all the time. But with that being said, let's go into what today's topic is going to be about. And it's kind of a little bit of a holiday sales to buy list.
Yeah.
I could have phrased that much better.
It's a to buy list for the holiday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
for musicians.
For musicians.
In particular. We're not going to talk about cool sweater vests. We're just going to talk about very applicable things today that, either if you know somebody that's a musician or if you're a musician yourself, it's something to look out for and gift somebody that they will need. Like these are most likely necessities, like most of them.
To be more specific, these aren't like very really cool things or the fun side of music. We're going to be focusing more on like the nitty gritty things that maybe aren't necessarily so flashy or sexy, but are still very, very important.
Exactly.
So that's going to be the focus of today's episode. Just a quick disclaimer. Brandon put this in the last minute. I'm glad he did. We are not sponsored or endorsed by any of the following. We're just simply trying to help you find out something that you need. This is a good time to get them because there's a lot of holiday prices out there. A good time to ask them so people can give them to you. It's just things that we recommend, things that we've needed throughout our journey. We've seen other people need throughout their journey, and we think you can get cheap and like something really helpful for other musicians in your life.
Yeah.
If you want to be a king of Christmas, get a couple of these and spread them out with
exactly.
your musician buddies.
You're going to need these anyway, so you might as well get them on sale and save yourself some cash so you can spend it on the things that you want to, the cool stuff that you want to have later on. And we'll talk about like the psychological stuff behind that. But like Sean said, not sponsored, not endorsed by anything, no affiliate links, nothing like that. This is just our experience with saving money over the years.
Speaking of holiday sales, as you mentioned it, let's kind of dive into, should you be using credit cards or a lot of these promotional things that happen during the holidays where it was financed for 0% interest for 12 months or whatever? Yeah. Is this something that could be useful to take advantage of this time of year or potentially not?
Sure.
Before we dive into the what you should buy, it's like, well, maybe should you buy?
Yeah. That's a really tough one. I think that really comes down to whether or not you're a credit card person or not. This is not a credit card or budget podcast. This is not
financial advice.
This is not financial advice. I mean, you can go find plenty of resources for that out there. But I think just from speaking from just my experience is that, I mean, avoid credit cards if you can't pay it off every month, right? Like you're going to want to pay off your balance in full every month with that statement that comes in. That's just good credit habits. Yeah. And then also making sure that you have the money when you spend the money on a credit card. I think that's crucial because there are these issues that arise maybe when you're something happens to your car or something happens at the house, right? And you need to fix it. That emergency, it's a bad time to use a credit card during an emergency, especially if you don't have the cash to back it up. Because then you're relying on your future self to get that cash. And if you don't have that cash now, it's very stressful. And it's going to change how you actually function within your business and your life. You're going to be a lot more stressed out. So my hard, fast rule, pay off your credit card balance every month. Avoid interest at all costs, but that comes with paying off your credit card balance every month. If you can take advantage and be disciplined of the 12-month 0% interest financing, 24-month. I think Sweetwater goes all the way up to 48.
Some of them are 48,
which is insane. That's almost a car payment. That's almost like the terms of a car payment.
It's 4 years.
That's 4 years you have to pay it off. But if you're able to be disciplined enough and turn on those automated payments, I know Sean will talk about in a second, then by all means, go for it. But you have to be accountable with yourself with this one.
Yes, you really do. I have a personal rule whenever buying something with a credit card. That's a business decision or a music decision, just gear or a subscription or whatever it is. And that is to only purchase if I'm able to buy it twice. So if it costs $100, if I have $200 in the bank, okay, I can buy it because I have enough left over after I buy it. I'm not completely draining my savings. If it's $2,000 and I have $3,000 in the bank, I won't buy it. I'll wait until I get, double what it is before I make the investment. Now, at a certain point, that kind of becomes unreasonable. It's like, oh, I'm not going to finance a car, even though I need to drive. It's it's $4,000 used or whatever, but I only have $7,000 in my bank account, so I'm not going to buy.
Right.
You need the car to drive places. So this isn't a steadfast rule, but for a lot of things that relate to music, a lot of the stuff, once you get your essentials down, a lot of non-essentials are like, okay, that's a rule that I personally live by. And I used it when I upgraded my audio interface from a Soundcraft MTK24 board to a Cranborn Audio R8 500, which is a 500 series chassis with an audio interface built in, as well as a summing mixer. And when I got it, I financed it from Sweetwater using the Sweetwater card. I had enough to pay for it twice. But I'm like, I wanted to make sure I was able to maintain a certain amount of cash flow and have enough in the bank for an emergency. So it worked out to like $80 a month. And turn on automatic payments. I paid manually the first 2 months, and then I watched the third one just to make sure that it was good.
Yep. I still watch my automatic payments. The day of, I'm like looking, I'm like, did it go through? Because I just want to know. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a situation you want to be in, especially because like a lot of these credit cards, you look at them, it's like, interest rates are like 24%,
even 30. I think
30.
I think the Sweetwater one's 30%.
Exactly. Usually
That's ridiculous. That's robbery.
Usually the ones that offer the low interest rates up front, they're banking on you missing it because that's where they make the real money afterwards, because the rates just jack up so high. So make sure you can pay for it in whole. So if you want to break it apart and keep more in the bank, keep the cash flow going, then that's part of the strategy. However you want to work on it, which we're going to have an episode about cash flow. Moving on. I'm excited. This real quick tangent. This summer, not this summer, we're going to winter. This season is going to be the season of us breaking down and going further into all these topics. We'll cover that later. So we're going to have some really, really fun ones moving forward.
That's just a small asterisk right now, right? Like we're coming back to these topics. We truly are. Like we know. We know. Yeah. So
I just wanted to say that. But also, we're talking about having a strong credit is so important in life. And it also is very important because like you are a business. If you turn your band into a sole member LLC or a multi-member LLC, if you're a band versus an artist, then you can potentially get business credit cards and you can make purchases on behalf of your band or your business or whatnot. And that allows it to separate it, yada, yada. You can get into the weeds on that if you want to. There's plenty of other videos that go really into depth about this. But when you're doing that, if you're looking to get a new credit card, that's going to take a hit to your credit score. So make sure you're aware of that. Try to apply for credit cards that have certain benefits to them. Like when I got a credit card a year and a half ago, I was making a purchase on something that was like $3,000, and the credit card was if you spend $2,000 in the first month, you get $500 back.
Oh, okay.
So I got the card, made the purchase because it was like a $5,000 limit.
Yep.
And then I got $500 back.
That's great.
So I got 20% off of the $3,000 purchase.
Yep.
These are things you can do as well. Once again, not financial advice.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself into any debt. Don't buy anything that you can't pay twice.
Yeah.
But you can use these as tools to add on top of other tools, because I also got 2% back on that purchase to begin with. So there's a lot of fun things you can do when you start looking into the financial sector of it. Holiday season can be stressful.
Yes, it
now
can.
may not be the time to really dig into it.
Yeah.
Depending on how much you have going on, but these are things to be aware of.
Yeah.
And they can be awesome tools. Like I've made so much money off my Cranborn. I've made way more than $80 a month.
Right. That's the thing.
Based
right.
off of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There is the thing where it's like, to get these credit cards, you have to apply for them, and you will take a hit at the credit score because they have to peak at that, right? Yep. So if your credit score isn't the greatest right now, for whatever reason, like I said, we don't get into that here. Yeah. Might not be wise to even try to apply for it. These credit cards, like the Sweetwater one, I think they have a pretty high threshold because of what it entails, and that is musical equipment. I mean, that's really what it's geared towards. And then obviously, like we said, the interest rate on that's 30%. And like, if you don't have a great credit history, and that could be for whatever reason, and it's 30% you're looking at in the face, it's probably best to steer clear until you can kind of clean that up a little bit. Just personal advice, but it's not financial advice.
Yeah,
not
look at
official
yourself.
Look at yourself and evaluate with whatever. One other small thing is that if you do miss a payment on one of these cards, and let's say you go get a card, you miss a payment, you can call the credit card company probably one time and be like, hey, I messed up. Is there any way that I could still make this payment and not count for it to be late and I still get my interest-free financing? Generally, most of the time that I've found, I've missed one time and I called them. They're like, yeah, no problem. Like, I've seen you've had good payment history in the past. This is your one time this year that you can do this. And I'm like, let's do it. Because if you miss a payment on your $3,000 purchase and you're getting charged 30% a month, that accumulates. That's compounding a month. And you have to pay that interest.
The law of compounding is even beautiful and scary at the same time.
If you're paying
for or against you,
if you're paying 24 months on something and you miss the payment on the 24th payment, you're paying for every month leading up to that. Every month. Be careful. Because that's a lot of interest.
Yes, it is.
That sucks.
Yes,
really bad.
Yes,
so I just want to put that out there just because credit cards can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing I'm going to say is also, are you going to make any big life purchases going forward?
Yeah.
Are you applying for an apartment or a house or a car? If you have a big purchase coming up, then you don't necessarily want to take a hit to your credit score right before you do that, before you apply for it, because that makes you... It throws some more turbulence in the waters.
Totally agree. And I think last thing that I want to add to the amount that you spend on the credit card too, that is determined by your spending limit. If you max out your credit card, you will take a hit on getting the credit card out, and then you will take a hit on maxing it out.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've had it happen. So, and I mean, I'll just tell the story. I opened up a credit card during the summer. My transmission went on my car. And I was like, okay, I have the money in the bank. I don't want to spend $4,000 right away, so I'll pay it off over time. I found a card that was 21 months. I was like, that's great. Applied for it, took a hit on the credit, knew that was going to happen. But now I have the flexibility of 21 months. Maxed out the credit card at $4,000, which it would even out, you know. And my credit took a big hit. Like, I'm talking like 40, 60 points. It's a lot. And I like opened up the credit score app. I was like, oh my God, like that was terrible. It's obviously recovered since then because I've been making more than the minimum monthly payment every month up to this point. Yeah. And just know that will happen. So what Sean's saying right now is if you have a big purchase that requires a loan or something coming up, probably steer clear. Of a credit card.
Probably going to do that.
Yeah.
But that's the introduction, the kind of disclaimer and all that out of the way.
Now the fun stuff.
Let's go into the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So as we said, there's a bunch of holiday sales going on right now. Also, things you can look at for discounts if you are a student. There's a bunch of educational discounts out there. I know we both got Pro Tools for like a tenth of the price or something when we were students. Like a lot of times places like Best Buy or whatnot will have things like cameras and software and hardware and stuff like that on discount for students. So those are also things to be aware of if you are the one trying to take advantage of the sales and get the gift for yourself.
Sometimes those educational discounts can even be better than the holiday sales. Like sometimes they're like 50%. It's insane. So if you're a student or you still have access to like an ID that expires after you graduate or something, try to take advantage of that before you lose access to that, because that can save you a lot of money. That saved me thousands of dollars over the years. Thousands.
And also, just to be aware of, is just because something says it's on sale doesn't mean it's actually cheaper than it normally is.
We learned that this past Black Friday. This was a bad Black Friday. It was bad, terrible, terrible.
There's tons of companies that almost take advantage of this, where things are almost always on sale. Like, I don't know, depending on where you are regionally, we have Kohl's around us. Everything is always on sales at Kohl's.
Yep. Kohl's Cash.
It's a clothing store. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this is a $100 thing for $20. Congrats. But it's never been sold for $100.
Yeah. It's just MSRP.
Yeah. They just jack it up so that they can sell it for a lower price, and they look like you're getting a good deal, even though you're paying the fair market value for it. So that could be something that potentially happens. Even so, when there are discounts around this time of year, you might think, oh, this is when everything's on sale. So that 10% off, that's the best it's going to get. Maybe there's a history of it going down to 15 or 20%. And unfortunately, there are tons of tools out there in order to keep track of these kinds of things. The biggest one that we know of that is really popular out there is Honey. You can use it as a tool. It'll automatically apply certain discounts that it could find. And you can also look at the charts and see what's the price it's been in the past. So you know, okay, how far down has it gone? Maybe it's $200 now when it's usually $300, but like, oh, a year and a half ago, it was down to 175. So maybe I'll hold off a little bit longer and see if the sale comes back again. Then you'll have more data to make a more informed decision. Or, hey, it's 250, but 3 times throughout this year it was 200. So I'm just going to wait for that to happen again.
Yeah.
You can use that information. Another one is called Camel that is more specific towards Amazon, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
So you can track Amazon pricing, rises and falls, and just be more informed on what the actual good deal is that you can make on that particular product.
It'll even tell you warehouse deals, used deals, everything that pops up within that specific listing. It'll tell you like how low it's been over the conjecture. I think it goes 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, which is awesome.
5 years.
You can really see the fluctuations of the price and how quickly it also fluctuates too. So if you're able to like hold off on something and when it's not the best price, by all means, I would just keep an eye on those graphs, like daily, honestly, because like you never know when those weird Amazon flash sales pop up. And so I would saving money. You know, you got to put a little bit of work into it and a little bit of kind of effort. So,
and then the third option you can do to save money aside from just sales in general and educational discounts is you could make a friend from an employee at Guitar Center.
Yes.
And mooch off their discount.
Yes.
If they let you.
Or you should make 3 friends at Guitar Center.
Multiple, yeah. And they're musicians too. They're good people to know. Or if you work at Guitar Center, you know. So correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the Guitar Center discount is the retail price that they buy it for plus 10%.
That's correct.
So sometimes
most of the time.
So if there's a high markup on the piece of gear, like, oh, they sell for 500, but they buy it for 300, you're paying $330 for a $500 piece of gear.
It's sick.
Trust me. That's another option that if there's a Guitar Center in the area and if you work there, fantastic.
Yeah,
that. If you don't, find someone who does.
That's the thing too, right? It's like
musicians, they want to talk to you.
Yeah, it's like we should talk about this too. Is like maybe getting a job at Guitar Center or some kind of music store just while you're building your studio as just like part time or something. Might not be a bad idea just because like maybe you won't be getting paid the best money, but you sure will save a lot of money with those discounts while you're building that studio. So you'll save thousands of dollars in the long run just by working there for a year, 2 years, right? Part-time.
They fucked over the employees last year. They completely changed They completely changed the commission structure. So they kind of like maxed out how much you can make on commission.
Gotcha.
Or like they adjusted the thresholds of how much you would get.
Yeah.
And it just completely knocked people down.
That company is interesting. Yeah. It's an interesting company.
Better than Gibson, but not great.
Oh, I could go on a whole rant about Gibson.
That's not this episode, but if you want to listen to Brandon rant, maybe
maybe we'll do an extra or something.
Maybe we'll do like an extra, like an after party.
I'm looking at my Gibson on the wall right now. I'm just mad at it. I'm not. I like it. It's all right.
Okay. Another thing is, now that you know this is the piece of gear I want, these are the low prices that it's been in the past.
This is how I can see the low prices in the past.
Yep. What is your budget? Set the budget. Go in mind with how much you're willing to spend so that you don't overspend. Once the money's flowing, it kind of keeps going. It's really easy to just kind of overspend. So one of the biggest tricks you can do is, okay, I'm going to back up real quick. Psychologically, the brain does not like limitations. It makes us feel sad.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I have a max of $1,000, just simply framing it differently as, I have up to $1,000 to spend. That is my budget. Changes it from, this is a limit where I can't go past, like it's a downer, to I can go up to this point, like I can take full advantage of the rest of it. It sounds silly, but that small framing difference does matter a lot psychologically, and it makes the brain more interested in finding ways of like, oh, how can I fit all this in within that budget? It becomes a problem for your brain to solve, and people like solving things. We like puzzles.
Yeah.
I like puzzles.
It's a small intricacy within the framework of behavioral economics, which is, I'm going to recommend Misbehaving by Richard Thaler. I think that's how you say his name.
Oh, no.
I mean, what you said right there is it has to do a lot with psychology and how we react to economics behaviorally. Like we don't think in a linear structure. There are certain things that people or companies can use to our advantage or disadvantage to get us to spend money. We don't all think about money the same way. We don't always have the same emotions tied to money.
I would recommend looking into the Money Mindset by is it T. Harvey Eker?
I think so.
I think so.
I think that's right. Yeah. I think
But
that's right.
the Millionaire Mindset.
It's a great book.
It's a phenomenal book.
It's a great book.
Just the first 2-3 chapters are just worth the read. Even if you're not like, I don't want to be a millionaire, if that's not like what your goals or whatever. Just the first 3 chapters are all about reframing money in your mind and how we got it to begin with, why we think the way we do about it.
Yeah.
And just kind of, it's such a good book to read.
It is. It's honestly a must read because like it can change your perspective on money, whether or not you have a positive relationship with it or a negative relationship with it. I should read it again.
This is gonna become a book podcast.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, like for the listeners, we actually wrote down yesterday, we have a book recommendation list coming soon. If you haven't noticed, if you're a YouTube watcher, we have books set in the middle of the table, which I will be bringing more next time. I said that this time. I'm going to bring more next time.
Yeah.
That's on my list.
The next episode, because we're recording 2 today, but next time.
What Sean was kind of talking about and kind of setting a budget constraint for yourself, that also has to do a lot with like mental accounting. That's not something I came up with. That's in the book Misbehaving. But it's basically just kind of like mentally accounting. I don't know how else to say it. You know,
some things are self-explanatory.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. So just make sure that you're very steadfast in your ways with your budget constraint, and make sure that you kind of stick to it. And if you need to frame it like Sean said, then by all means do so. Just make sure you stick with it and stick within your range. And like I said, like the more that you can try to take advantage of these sales, the more you can kind of get more within your budget, or you can like come under budget, which is awesome too, because then you can allocate that somewhere where you might not even be thinking of.
Well, a way you can kind of structure the budget to use it to its most fullest is to kind of separate between like priorities and fun. Have like take your big full budget and then group together how much you have under each of these things. Go for the priorities first, and if you overlap it, okay, you have to take some out from your fun. But if you cut it under, great, you can spend more on your fun. With the overall budget. I think something you want to dive more into about the separation between those two, and kind of thinking about what purchase that you're going to make, where does it fall? Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, like some of this stuff is not sexy. It's not sexy at all. I have a couple of pieces of stuff up here for the YouTube watchers. I have a tuning pedal. I mean, I think tuning pedals are hot as hell. But ooh, man, it really gets me going. But let's be honest though, for like maybe just, you know, the musicians out there, maybe they're just like, it's just a tuning pedal. What's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, tuning pedals are great because like they're a very great source of synchronicity between you and the other band members, and everybody needs one. Everybody needs to be in tune. Go out and get it on sale. Like it's not fun.
Well, so think about it. Let's say you have one of those SCART tuners or whatnot. And you know, gets the job done. And you're making your music and just tuning that, and then you got with a band, you're going to start performing on stage or whatnot. Make sure that you can see the thing.
Yeah.
Because that plays a huge role. Anyways.
Huge role.
Let's take a step back. We're going to get to the list of things soon. We've kind of talked about the psychological amounts of it. I do want to jump into shiny object syndrome a little bit before we really dive into the actual list of things. We've kind of broken the list down into education, business software tools, and then the unsexy stuff is where we're going to end it all off.
Yeah.
So we'll get there soon. We promised that we just had to really front load this episode.
We did. There's a lot of like disclaimers before we get into this.
Yeah. But shiny object syndrome is, I'll just do a quick breakdown. You can go into more psychology behind it. Shiny object syndrome is when you have something that's top of mind. It's new, it's fresh, it's shiny. We like shiny. The caveman brain, the lizard brain, however you want to phrase it, is like, that's new. I want to do that. And then something else new comes along, and then you go and do that. And then something else new shows up, and I want to buy that. And then, I'm going to do that. Jumping around from thing to thing to thing just because it's new, not necessarily because it's the most beneficial thing for you to buy, the most beneficial thing for you to do, the most beneficial thing for you in general. So shiny object syndrome is something to be aware of, especially during holiday season when things are come and going. Even when you're asking for things like, okay, what's the most important thing for me in the long run? Not, I saw this TikTok where this guy says you can get this capo is much better than the rest of the capos. I need this capo even though it's $50 more. Kind of think about, okay, well, what does it do? What do I need?
Yeah.
What works? Just because it's popular, just because I saw it, doesn't mean it's the best thing for you to do. Same thing with this podcast. For a lot more educational episodes, just because we talk about it that week doesn't mean you have to apply it that week.
Right.
Think about what's more beneficial for you. But anyways, specifically towards this, buying things with shiny object syndrome, there are some psychological things to consider.
Yeah, I mean, with shiny object syndrome, every time you kind of go after something new, you get a little bit of a dopamine rush, and it's very new, it's very interesting. There's like this like kind of like diffusion curve of what you're learning, right? So like when you first start something, there's a massive upswing in the amount of knowledge that you learn about something and amount of interest that you have.
Can I represent that really quick?
Go ahead, please.
If you have played any video game ever, then, and especially if it's an RPG, you've experienced that. The first 10 levels, super easy to get. Level 90 to level 100, oh my God, that may take 5,000 times the amount of time and effort to get there. So that's a great way to represent that kind of curve. It's
and that's
easy
exactly that. It's easy in the beginning. It's a nice curve. Then all of a sudden, like Sean said, you kind of plateau. And as things start getting harder, your desire to want to do it becomes maybe less and less and less. And then that means like, oh, well, I'm not very interested in it anymore because this is really hard. But, oh, this thing is really cool. These companies are banking on you doing that right around Christmas time because they're going to wave a bunch of stuff in your face that are like, hey, here's this tuner, right? But it's only on sale for 9 days. And you're like, oh man, I want to
scarcity mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And then they put pressure on you. This is really economics and business 101 right here, right? Then they put pressure on you and they're like, okay, make sure you buy within 9 days because you're going to get the best deal on it. And then that tells you in your head, like, oh, I got to get this now. And then you go out and buy it and you end up, I mean, maybe not even needing that product. Maybe there's better products out there. Maybe there's cheaper products, but it's because this one's in your face and top of mind and it's shiny and new. You're like, oh, I got to have this one. And that can play into a massive psychological constraint issue and a budget constraint issue because you end up spending more money than you actually need, right? There might be bells and whistles on this one thing opposed to this other thing, but you don't even need the bells and whistles. They're honestly irrelevant, or you could do it better with something else. So these companies are banking on you right now to do that. I mean, all year, but really right now to make that splurge towards something that you might not even need. So be cognizant of that.
So if you're curious to ever learn about what things people can employ to get you to buy things or do things, there's a book called Influence. It's a very dense book. I don't necessarily recommend everybody read it because it's a very powerful book once you understand tips and tricks you can do. We're going to, a little peek behind the curtain, we're going to be doing a series about that in the first half of next year, kind of going about the levels of influence. Scarcity is one of the big ones that Brandon just talked about. And that's a huge thing during the holidays. That's why Black Friday and Cyber Monday are so crazy, because it's only for one day. So people want to go. They want to rush.
Yeah.
So
which Black Friday has
you can use that for your tool.
Black Friday has really lost a lot of its mojo by actually making things less scarce, which is interesting, right? Because like Black Friday used to be the one day. Now it's a week long. And now Cyber Monday has become Cyber Tuesday, Cyber Wednesday, Cyber Thursday. And honestly, it's Cyber Holidays at this point. It's really lost a lot of its mojo. And why people are still shopping on Black Friday is actually kind of interesting to me. It's a very, very interesting psychological thing. That was a little bit of a tangent, but that's just because we just got out of Black Friday. That's the only reason why I'm curious about this right now.
Yeah, we're recording this 2 days after Cyber Monday just ended. So a little bit of timeline about this, which is, that's the time of year.
Yeah, exactly. It's the time of year. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So now let's kind of get into the fun parts of it, the actual lists of, hey, these are some things that we recommend.
The fun stuff
you start looking into,
Oh wait, there's some unsexy stuff sprinkled in here too, but we'll let you know when that is.
Yeah, but
maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just. This is just fun.
It's literally titled the unsexy.
I know that's
stuff,
why I said that's why I saw the heading and.
But to start off, let's go into the most sexy of all things: education.
Ooh.
Yeah, make that brain soft and wet. Healthy,
bro. What the fuck?
No, seriously, it's tissue, and it's in like a fluid, and like a healthy brain is soft and wet. So that's what we want to do. At least I didn't say moist. So education is incredibly important. Anything that you learn, like that's why if you're listening to this podcast, you want to learn things about the industry. You want to make a living in the music industry. You want to be educated.
Maybe. Most likely.
If you've gone this far, because we haven't listed a single thing yet. So if you've got this far, you want to learn, which props to you. You're taking the first
step.
Thank
you.
And thank you.
That's great.
But we're not the only resource out there. There's a lot of other cool things out there. We just referenced a bunch of books. So one of the best things you could ask for Christmas is a subscription to Audible.
Yeah. I mean, Audible is great because, like, first of all, if you don't like reading, I mean, that's a challenge within itself. Is getting time to sit down and read a book is it's honestly fleeting depending on what your schedule is. And if you're a musician and you're playing out a lot, that's really tough to do. And musicians are very auditorial based. So like this is great for us because like we can listen to it on the go and actually still retain the information that way.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. You're probably not just sitting down and listening to this podcast.
Most likely
and taking
not.
notes. You're either in the kitchen, vacuuming, driving, in between gigs, mowing the lawn, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
you're doing something else. That's where people listen to podcasts.
Yep.
If you get Audible, you can now fit books into that schedule as well and get really compact and dense information specifically towards areas you're looking forward to. We've got a book recommendation coming out in a couple of episodes even, but just to kind of sprinkle a few of them out there, we've got a couple here, like The Go Giver. What's that one called again? Misbehaving.
Yep. Blink, and then create, produce, consume.
Yep. One specific towards the music industry is How to Make It a New Music Business by Ari Hershtan. That's a really good one as well.
Yeah, it's a great book.
And we'll dive more into that in the future, but those are a couple quick recommendations. But Audible subscription can be very helpful to learn.
Yep.
Another one is if you want to get more into the production side of it, if you want to get more into making your own demos, or working with other musicians, increase your skill base so you can be more of a help on stage or to other musicians to build connections with other artists out there. A great place to learn more technical skills of the music industry are masterclass courses like Mix with the Masters, Creative Live, or Produce Like a Pro.
Yep. And there are many other options out there too. You just got to do a little bit of research on it. I'm not going to sit here and name all the sources, but I mean, these are fantastic, especially if you don't have the resources around you to go to a studio or to work with these bigger producers or whatever the case may be. You can actually see a glimpse into their workflow or how they think about something and kind of like model your philosophies with what they do. And I still like, I know I mentioned it last time, but people are still like, oh, you still watch YouTube videos or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it's not always for the tutorial. It's sometimes just to like see what they're thinking. Like, I just want to know what you're thinking and be like, oh, that's really cool. I want to incorporate that into my thinking next. Or I don't like the way that you did that. I'm not going to do that next, you know? So these are just great resources, especially if you don't have that community around you or that availability around you.
Yeah. And then some other things that you can do, some other resources for education of whatnot, is you can look up some documentaries or some behind the scenes videos for different bands that you like and kind of take a peek behind the curtain, see what their workflow looks like, what the creative process looks like, how they converse ideas throughout in the studio, outside of the studio, making music in general. Any place you can kind of go to gain those skills, that would be masterclasses, Audible,
great place to start.
Skillshare. There's a bunch of places out there.
Yeah. Linda. Remember that one?
No.
Is that still around?
I have no idea. I know what you're talking about.
It was like one of the first ones with Creative Live. And I remember looking at that in like 2013, dude. It was a long time ago. I don't even know if they're still around, but they do have masterclasses on that too. You can find them all over the place these days.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can go cook. You can even go cook with Chef Ramsay if you want to. So by all means.
And then also even if you watch YouTube to get your information, it's more scattered. It's not as condensed or as informational a lot of times. But oftentimes, if you have these creators or these musicians that you look at for tips and tricks and whatnot, a lot of them offer courses that then you can buy to go further in depth about it. So if you have someone that you like watching on YouTube, check to see if they have a course. That could be a good educational gift to receive or to give somebody else. Next, we're going to go into kind of some business and software tools. Some of these are subscription-based. Most of them are subscription-based
Most of them
nowadays.
these days,
Yeah. So this time of year, usually the sales are, hey, get the first 3 months for $1 or whatever. And
which is a great way to trial it out for more longer than the week trial that they have or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a very low risk, and that's how they get you in the door, right? That's what the marketing tactic is there. Yeah,
exactly. And that can be a little hard to ask for as a gift because like if they put it under their card, then once the gift expires, it's going to keep renewing it to them, or you have to transfer it or whatnot. So if you do ask for any of these subscription-based resources as a gift for anybody, then you might want to also say like, hey, let's figure out how we're going to get this paid.
Transition that over.
Either just give me the cash for the first couple of months or give me a check for it. I'll put in the bank and then I'll put under my card so that when it renews, I can take over it versus you having to do it every year. I know, was it you who said for like the longest time you would just have your parents gift you Pro Tools subscription every year?
Yeah, for my birthday.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do it.
Yep. It was like because I was still on the educational discount, which I'm no longer. They just emailed me this morning. Actually, that's funny. They were like, "You got to renew." I was like, "Well, I guess I can't." So $300 a year, which sucks really bad. But hey, I mean, it makes the studio, right?
Oh, yeah.
We need it.
It makes the podcast.
Honestly, that's what we're running right now behind us. If you can't tell,
for sure.
So yeah, but like it's honestly it's what were you talking about? You were talking about the subscription.
I was talking about
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Sean was saying, it's tough to have people gift you subscriptions, but if it's cheap enough, like UAD just had their Spark sale where you get plugins for $1 for 3 months or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a great way to test things out. A really good way. And if you don't want to continue that subscription, but you want to take advantage of the $1 offer or whatever the case may be, set a reminder in your calendar app and I'm talking about set a reminder like at least 2 days before that renews, because sometimes these companies get a little weird when they take out the money, and you can kind of read that in the fine print when you sign up too. Sometimes they'll be like, we'll take the money a week before it actually renews. So just be cognizant of that too. Yeah. But put a reminder in your calendar and put a notification that tells you a week before, and then like 2 days before, and then the day of. So like at the very latest, you're like, hey, cancel. I got to go and cancel it today. So little tip there. I do that all the time.
Fair enough. That's a good thing to do.
Save money
in your calendar.
Gotta save money where you can.
So some of these tools we've mentioned in a previous episode of ours, I believe it was episode 7, where we just talk about software that is important for any music maker to know. I'll pull up the exact episode. But in the meantime, to start off with, the biggest one that we're going to talk about is kind of anything you can use to create easily image-based content for your live shows, your social media posts, other bands for their promotional things. So you can kind of like, make good connections with them. And the most popular one, common one being Canva, but also then there's the Adobe Suite, which is a little more expensive.
It definitely is way more expensive. Yeah.
But has a lot of other features, especially if you get the full suite, because then there's like, the After Effects and all the other things you can get more into video, and it gets a lot more complicated.
Now this is a great place to park just for a second to kind of demonstrate our point with the psychological constraints and shiny object syndrome, because what Sean just said, he's absolutely correct. The Adobe stuff is way more powerful and you can do a lot more with it. So now you're probably automatically thinking, oh, it's better for me than automatically because it can do more. That's not necessarily the case. And that you're going to be chasing a lot of the apps within Adobe if you don't know how to use them yet. And man, are those hard to learn at first. If you have no background with like any digital audio workstations or any other video editing software, it is tough because you have to learn the terms, you have to learn the workflow, you have to learn the menus. Brutal. No,
I highly recommend Canva just because it has those templates. It's easy to use, and you can make great products with it. I know graphic designers who have the Adobe Suite and they do like 30% of their work in Adobe, but they do 70% in Canva just because of how easy it is. And they've imported a bunch of assets in there because they like the workflow. So
you get results rather than you chase the shiny object in front of you, right? Because you're going to chase the Photoshop, you're going to chase Lightroom, you're going to chase all the apps within there. So you have to really evaluate what your strengths are right here, right? So if your strengths are not within creating videos or anything like that, Canva is going to probably be your go-to for that one. But if you're good at creating videos and you need that ultimate flexibility later on, maybe the Adobe is good for you. That's all with what you have. That's all determined on your budget and your psychological constraints.
And I mean, we said like we don't know like what your focus is with the visual aspect of it, whether it should be Canva or Adobe Suite or whatever. But what we all know the focus is, it's the music.
Yes.
The focus is the music. And another subscription you can do is a service like Splice or the equivalent, any sort of sample library that's royalty free. Now you got to, once again, read the fine print, make sure it's truly, commercially royalty free for these assets so that it can go wherever you want, especially if you're planning on doing any sort of sync licensing or spot licensing. You got to make sure you own, or at least own a license to every single sample you use. A lot of times, some of these places just cover their own ass, won't even if it has a sample that you have a complete license to from one of these libraries, they won't even take it because it's so risky with litigation in terms of when they license it out for film or movies or whatnot. So, but if you're doing stuff for your own personal music release or projects, or just to get the creative juices flowing, to get a basic idea out there quick, like a basic drum loop, and then you hire someone in to play on top of it so you own that part of it. Services like Splice and whatnot are super useful and can really help with the creative process. By the way, episode 7 is where we listed all the software tools every independent artist should use. So if you want to go more in depth, you can check that out. But yeah, Splice and other equivalents, another big one.
Absolutely. One of those tools that we mentioned in episode 7 was music distribution services. Like you can probably find maybe a couple deals on this. The one that we're going to talk about that I have highlighted here is DistroKid. That one rarely goes on sale because of how cheap it actually is a year.
So cheap.
This is a year. I think their lowest tier price now is $25 a year. A year, not a month, a year. So I mean,
I honestly think that for any software, this is one of the best things you can ask for a gift.
Yeah.
Because the way DistroKid works, there's a couple other ones like this, but the way DistroKid specifically works is you pay once for a yearly subscription to the service, and you can upload as many songs as you want within that time period, and it distributes it to Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer, all the other places out there.
Yep.
The unfortunate thing is, if you don't pay the subscription, then it does take your songs back down. Where services like CD Baby, they put it out once, and it's there forever. If you don't, you don't have to pay every year to keep it up there. But if you just like, hey, I have a lot of music I got to put out there, services like DistroKid, and that's also why it's so good to ask for as a gift, because it's easy. Oh yeah, $25.
Yep.
And then, boom, you just have music for a year.
Yep.
That's so cheap, such a good deal. I think this is one of the best subscription gifts you can ask for, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, this could potentially make you money. Right?
Oh, for sure.
So you could recoup your cost of the $25. No problem. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to do because
maybe not through streaming, because you get pennies per play.
I was going to say the streams are really tough. You'd have to have a lot of streams to get there, but that doesn't discount the iTunes store or anything like that.
Exactly.
Right? Where you get paid $1 and then you're probably paid, I don't know, 30 cents, something like that, per whatever. I don't know the exact numbers. Don't quote me on it.
Well, but even then,
yeah,
like Spotify just released a aspect of it where you can now order merch from the artist through Spotify. So now you have direct ways to sell tickets or merch through these platforms that you're able to put your music on and get known for just $25 a year. So yeah, because once it's out there, you can make an account on any of these specific platforms to use their software tools for free once you have the stuff out there. It doesn't cost anything to make a Spotify artist account to put music on Spotify. You just have to go through something to get it there.
Exactly. The last one we have written down here for subscription tools and business tools is social media management. Sean and I, we talked about this one yesterday, but a lot of these platforms kind of incorporate social media management onto their platform now, where you don't need that third-party monitor or moderator between you and the platform anymore to schedule posts or see the analytics. But there are a couple of good tools out there, I would say.
Yeah. Well, we briefly covered that in episode 7 where we talked about, Hootsuite's really expensive. We don't necessarily recommend that, but there's other ones that we use. Like I've used Hero Post. I don't know what price it is now, but when I got it, it was $30 for life.
I use Buffer. I've used Buffer before. Yeah. I think it's like $6 a month or something like that. Something very affordable.
Yeah. The positive is once you link your accounts with it, you make one post, you schedule on all these platforms, you click a button, and it's scheduled to go out at any of these locations. The downside is a lot of these platforms have platform-specific language that is used, platform-specific best practices. Like TikTok, you can load it with hashtags. Instagram, I think 5 or less is best practice. Between 3 and 5 is kind of what Instagram likes. At least at time of recording this, that's the research that I've done, and I've found some of our biggest Instagram posts have been that. But they now, like the Facebook Meta Suite, you can schedule posts on Facebook and Instagram. And probably Threads. I don't fucking know. I don't use Threads.
No, me neither. Me neither. I'm so bad.
Yeah. But then like YouTube, you can schedule your content directly through that. And that has different things, like different ways of posting it and whatnot. And TikTok has completely different things about it. But you can schedule through the computer on TikTok now.
Yeah.
So they all have built-in scheduling apps now. Our built-in scheduling aspects, which make it so these large things aren't necessarily as useful. In fact, something that does make it useful, just a quick helpful tip, is you can actually group pages. If you use Chrome as your browser, you can group pages under a group. And you can save it and make it public on the left top corner of your Google profile. So whenever you open it, that's like a grouping that you can then just click on, and it opens up all the pages automatically. So you can put all your social media posting platforms like the Meta Suite, the TikTok analytics page and whatnot under one group, and then just click on it, pulls it all up.
Yeah.
So whenever you do need to post something, it's just all right there at a click of a button.
Yeah. I do want to say that, I want to just put this out there that I don't know this for sure, and I'm just kind of guesstimating here. But I would say that because of these new suites that some of these platforms have where you can schedule stuff out, like you were saying, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, I would say that there could be something written in the algorithm. I hate using that, but it does exist. There's something that exists that
we were very had a good run with the algorithm recently.
Yes, we did. So it does exist, right? What that is where nobody knows besides for these companies, right? But if I had to guess, I would say that these apps may start to hurt your engagement overall long term just because of the integration. So what I'm saying is that they might nerf your engagement and likes and everything like that just because you're using a third-party software where they want to encourage you to use their own suite. I have no backing on
this. This is tinfoil hat.
This is tinfoil hat conspiracy, Brandon. But you know they've done it for less. These companies, so be mindful of that. I'd be curious to see if somebody wants to do an experiment on it. I'd be really curious to see the results, and if they haven't done it yet, I hope I didn't just give them an idea. So just I guess a small caveat, but go back and listen to one of our social media episodes about that, because we kind of get a little bit more into that, and why I even brought that up is relevant to that episode. So
yeah, for sure. And if you want to learn more about social media in general, we have a whole 2-part series, episode 8 and episode 9, if you want to go check that out and take your game to the next level, like we've been doing on our end.
Yes.
With that all being said, now we are going into the unsexy stuff.
Yeah.
These are the smaller, mostly cheaper, mostly things that you might not think you need, and you might be able to get by for a little while without them, but man, they're super useful to have. So they're great things to ask for stocking stuffers or gifts, and also great things to give to fellow musicians in your life, because eventually they'll find a use for it.
Yep.
So we're gonna get in sexy, Brandon.
Yeah.
We're gonna get dull here.
I guess so.
I'm trying to think of like what's the most. I'm trying to think of what the most unsexy voice I can think of to like.
I don't know. That's a good question.
My brain goes Valley Girl.
That's valid. Go ahead.
But that's just,
I just want to hear you do
personal
it.
reference. This is gonna be bad. This might get cut. Now we're on to the unsexy stuff. My god, get a 58, guys.
That's not getting cut. That's not getting cut. It's gonna stay in there.
But seriously though, get a 58. An SM58, a Shure 58, is one of the oldest used live microphones ever. The Beatles used them, and they're used to this day because they're just so reliable.
Yep.
They have the cardioid, good rejection for monitors. They don't feed back very easily, and they're cheap. It's like $99 normally.
Yeah.
You can sometimes get them on sale for like 80 or whatnot. But the reason most venues have microphones, you might think, why do I need one? Every time I go to a venue, they have them already set up for me. You don't know where that's been.
Right.
We had a pandemic a couple of years ago.
We did.
And disease is a thing. And especially if you're touring, you do not want to get sick on tour.
Yeah.
So it's just so much safer to bring your own microphone. At the very least, brings a disinfectant thing and like ask the engineer, like, hey, is it okay if I disinfect this before I use it?
Yep.
But I know, just not even that. Just get your own 58. There's no reason not to have one. They're durable. You can literally, at Woodstock, they literally hammered nails using 58s.
Yeah.
Because they're just that durable.
Yeah. This thing could survive a nuclear blast. I mean, look at this. I don't even care. I don't even care because I know it's gonna work still.
We threw it on carpet, so.
I know. You didn't have to tell anybody though.
Oh shit! Well, I went down. My chair just sunk into the ground.
The next one.
I'm just going up and down.
The next one is
This may actually be the real big one over the 58. This might be the biggest one you should get.
earplugs, and maybe not even just like the normal earplugs you get from Home Depot, but maybe some actually like
Give me a second.
what are those earplugs called?
Eargasm.
Yeah, eargasm earplugs. And basically what that does, it helps reduce like the actual decibel rating, but it keeps the clarity of everything around you. So you can still hear everybody around you, but it's just at a lessened decibel rate.
So this is my keychain, just my car key, my home key, but I also have my eargasm earplugs on it. On me at all time. They come in a metal case that just screws back on with a keychain, so you can make sure you always have them with you. They cut it down, I think 22.
It's something like that. Yeah,
dB?
22, 26, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Yeah.
They keep clarity, and what they really do is make it so you don't wake up the next morning with ringing in your ears.
Yeah.
We don't want, what is it? Tinnitus?
Yeah, tinnitus.
Tinnitus. If once again, this is Music Maker's Cookbook, helping musicians make a living in the music industry, doing what they love for a long time. If you get tinnitus or lose your hearing, it's kind of hard.
It's really
to
hard.
do music.
Yeah.
I mean, Bach did it, but
that is true.
he's an OG. So
Beethoven did it too.
wait, was it? Oh, maybe what did Bach lose his hearing?
I don't know.
I was thinking
I know Beethoven did.
I was thinking Beethoven. My bad. Well, he's an OG.
Bach did do it.
Did he?
I mean, not with deafness, but he did.
He
it,
did
though.
it. That's
He did do
true.
it,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But earplugs are fantastic.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is you can get custom ear molded or just ear monitors in general.
Yeah.
But the ear molded ones are fantastic. They're really expensive, but
It's a good investment, though.
it's a really good investment because they shape to your ear. They create a perfect fit so that you can really cut back on the volume. Cut back the volume on stage because you're not having a monitor coming back, which makes the whole thing sound better. But also, even if you have a monitor or whatnot, just they still function as earplugs. So
Yeah.
just put them in.
Exactly.
It's just very helpful.
And you can use them, I mean, anywhere. You could use them to listen to music. And
Exactly.
you could use them to in the studio, right? It's multi-purpose. So
Mhm.
those are sometimes like maybe the better investments because, I mean, you can buy earplugs all day long and lose them. And then all of a sudden you're accumulating all these costs and it's like, all right, well, maybe I should have just got the good ones instead.
Yeah. And even if you're like, I don't like having them on stage. I don't want to wear earplugs while I'm playing. Whatever. It's up to your ears. I don't recommend it, but if you keep a quiet enough stage, that's doable.
Yeah.
But you need something for when the other band takes stage. Because if we talk about it, listen to our live series, it's really important to be there throughout all bands, talk to the bands, listen, be by your merch booth, talk with fans. So it's going to be noisy in the whole venue.
Yep.
So have your plugs in, protect yourself, because that's hours upon hours of ear harming levels of volume.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's way too much. And let's be honest, the other reason why you need earplugs is because the drummer won't fucking stop playing while you're trying to tune your guitar. So,
Or putting a microphone on his drum kit. I've been hurt.
I think drummers are gonna hate me. It's terrible.
I love drummers.
I do too. They're
just hate
great,
them.
man.
The next thing you're going to want potentially is to get a
syringe.
Is a soldering or a desoldering iron. Now, we've talked about soldering in the past, episode 24, skills you should have as an engineer, not engineer, skills you should have as a musician.
And an engineer.
But this is for independent artists. So soldering can be very, very beneficial to help fix things while you're on the road, to help save costs, to help get good deals because you know how to fix it. And so that's why that's there. Desoldering irons, what they are is, let's say you have solder across two pins. So you cross the pins and you got to get rid of the solder. You just get it hot again, stick it up, click the button, sucks the solder away.
Yep.
Super helpful to have to fix mistakes.
They're awesome.
They're awesome. So those things are necessary to help fix gear, help fix your guitar, replace your pickups, anything that you might need to repair electronically, fix your pedals, whatever. Soldering and desoldering irons, super helpful tools to have, and they're pretty cheap.
They are.
Yeah, you can get just a basic one for, $10-15.
Yeah.
So,
depending on what you need to melt. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes like with maybe soldering irons, maybe this one is the one to kind of maybe splurge on in the long run because they last a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much last you forever. All you need to do is buy new tips, right? And for the most part, unless your iron burns out, which would be crazy. But I mean, you're talking like the what is that company, Weller?
I don't know. In terms of like the cheap ones?
No, the good ones, like the ones that last a while.
All I know is one of the soldering irons that I used when I make quick repairs and cables and whatnot is a Radio Shack iron from the 80s.
See, like even like that's fine.
So-
Is it temperature controlled?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying. You can get like a really cheap non-temperature controlled one
Exactly.
for basic tasks.
You can also get a really
there's-
cheap temperature controlled one too. That's
Yeah.
what I have right now.
Fair enough. But if you're going on the road, you're using it, you probably want one that's super easy and light to pack. That's why you might want to get
Exactly.
the more you get into it, the more you like it, the more repairs you do, especially if you want to like repair other musicians' gear, be like that kind of guy where all these people go to. That's super helpful. Help them out. You might want to get a nice one as well as a, really small basic one for when you're on the road.
Right. The small ones will be way better because you don't have to carry on the whole housing unit itself. Like the temperature control ones typically have the housing unit and it's a pain in the ass to pack.
Exactly. Yeah.
It takes up a lot of space.
Really does.
Yeah.
Speaking of making cables, you're also going to want a cable tester. That's our next unsexy gift.
That one's on my list this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ever since I borrowed yours for like 8 weeks.
They're nice. They're not that expensive.
Nice.
I think I got mine for like 40
$30. Yeah.
$30 is better.
35. I'll meet you in the middle. I think it was 35.
We're haggling right now?
Yeah. I'll meet you in the middle.
But no,
I'm not a good barterer. I went up right away.
Yeah, that's
terrible.
on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick at 40 and like anyways.
I ain't going 40.
Cable testers are super great and super helpful because, as we just mentioned, if you have a cable break on the road, you can just click it in and be, oh yeah, wiggle it around. This cable's busted. So that's where the problem is. Man, my throat. That sounded a lot more aggressive than I meant for it to.
It was
I just
very
wanted to
aggressive.
cough.
It was very aggressive.
But it's a quick way to troubleshoot things, especially if you're building and repairing.
Yeah.
Make sure it's wired correctly. Now, be a little bit cautious about it because it might show that it's wired correctly because it just makes sure each pin goes to the same pin when it's wired. But if you have the wires sent to the wrong pin, then it's still going to show correct. So double check those whenever you're doing it. But to make sure it's right on both ends, get a cable tester, make sure it works. And a lot of these are multi-use. They fix RCA, they fix XLR, they fix quarter inch, they fix speak on. Bunch of different kinds of cable types. So really important thing to do. Another thing you should be getting is the portable.
No. Sean just called me out.
I tried to keep talking fast.
Sean just called me out. I watched one bad video. I did that. I had a false negative.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
False positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mistake we'll never make again.
That is true.
So
That is true.
live through our mistakes.
We live and we learn.
Yeah. Live and learn.
You tried to go right by that.
Any Sonic fans out there? I did, because I saw you looking at me with disdain.
Mhm.
Anyways, the next thing, you want to take the next thing?
No.
I just kind of bullhorned
No.
through the last one.
No.
You don't want to talk about portable recorders?
Okay. Well, you just gave it away. Portable digital recorder. They're cool. Honestly, they're great because they have most of them have condensers on them,
Yes.
right? And it's better quality than what you could record with just your iPhone recorder or whatever phone you have. I'm not partial to either. Yes, I am. It's a great way to capture ideas. It's a great way to critique
your performance when rehearsing. You can listen to make sure you're in time.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you were dragging here. It's a great time to critique yourself in a live setting.
Yeah.
See how you sound, especially if you're in a new location or whatever. And you're like, man, this sounded really good in here. We're like that live engineer. Maybe we should like hire him to go on the road with us or something down the line.
Great way to do interviews.
Great way to do interviews.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to like have content behind the scenes with other bands and whatnot.
Yep.
So
I know for the radio station when we used to do capture the sound bits, you know how you'd have like the crowd being like, oh, you're listening to blah 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 and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
We'd have to do that with the bands there and with people in the crowd too. So like we'd have one of these portable digital recorders. Zoom makes a bunch of them. You can go check those.
Tascam makes them too.
And we just stick it up to their face, and it honestly sounds good. And like for all intents and purposes, we used it on the radio.
I have a Zoom H6, and it sounds so clear. The condenser console cartridges on the front. And then the Zoom H6 also has 4 XLR inputs that can do phantom power, that can do compression, and all that stuff on the way in.
Some of these are very fancy.
Very fancy. Yeah. And I've actually used it before to capture kind of a one-off. So I had a client, his artist name is Ship and Sail, and hadn't made music in a while, but it's really folky, really singer-songwritery. And we had an idea to go to a creek that was nearby and do like a creek session where we just sang and performed acoustically, and we just had the stereo mic to capture the sound of the creek and the brook nearby and the birds and all that. And then we had 57s and 58s going into the actual recorder for his voice and his guitar and all that. And I was able to put like other mics on. It turned out really, really cool, and be able to post on YouTube, cut up snippets, use it for shorts and whatnot. And I think he even put it on Bandcamp for someone to just like, hey, nice. This is only on Bandcamp. If you want to support us, you can buy it off Bandcamp, but this is the only place it is. And getting other versions of the same song that you can then sell specifically to those people who really are invested in you as an artist, that's a great way to make a little bit of extra income. And having a handheld recorder that allows you to go in different locations and do different things is very, very beneficial. Another benefit of having a handheld recorder that has XLR inputs, not just the stereo send, is if you are performing at a live show and you want to capture what the engineer is doing and he doesn't have a USB stick that you can plug into to capture the recording, you can just say, hey, can you pass the outs out of 2 separate, give me the signal send, and so I can plug it into my handheld recorder. Most engineers will be happy to accommodate with that, and then you can get a recording not only of the microphones in the room, but a direct feed from the board. So yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is sort of similar to the one we just talked about, but this one more has to do with your actual phone. It's just getting a USB-C microphone that fits into your plug, or a Bluetooth lapel that would also kind of route to your phone. Kind of serves this similar purpose.
Similar.
And it's a little bit easier kind of maybe to tote around that. I mean, maybe a little bit easier. Yeah. I mean,
well,
it's all subjective though, because like the portable recorder, it's all in one, built all in one.
Yeah.
Where the phone, you have to have the accessories with you and stuff like that. It just really depends on what your workflow is and what you want it to accommodate. Yeah.
The good news about putting on the phone is that, so like I have a Zoom one that's XY stereo pair. It just plugs in USB-C at the bottom of the phone. They do make some for older iPhones as well that have the different ports. Just make sure you get the one for your phone. But they have a USB-C one, it just plugs in the bottom of the phone and it becomes the microphone for the phone. It's a higher quality, it's stereo, great for when recording content like we talked about. Anything you would use the Zoom for, where you just put the Zoom out, you can use that instead. Really good for recording demos at a higher quality. Anything that, use beforehand, this is a cheaper way to get to that point and use your phone. Where it really becomes super useful is when you're recording video content, not just audio content. Because now you're stepping up your audio game on the video that you're recording, and it just kind of helps your video content stand out just a little bit more because it sounds just a little bit better than a normal phone would. Has a little bit higher highs, a little bit lower lows, a little bit more full. And they also make ones you can plug in that have XLR ports or whatnot if you want to go that route, but that gets more complicated. Yeah. I just recommend getting a stereo one. Same thing with the Bluetooth lapels. I don't know how well they work, and I would recommend not buying anything off of Temu, but you can. Yeah. But anyways, just in general.
At your own risk.
At your own risk. But they make it super easy. Usually Bluetooth is 25 to 30 feet range. I don't know how good a lot of these ones are, but you put the receiver once again in the bottom of your phone, clip them on your shirt, and whoever you're talking to or interviewing, or hold it and just point it at them, and it's a good way to kind of get some content. And once again, it syncs it with the video on your phone. Yeah. And it's a better quality audio that just takes to a little bit of the next level.
And Bluetooth really only works if you're not worried about monitoring situations too, if you're not listening back in real time, because there will be that latency there. So it kind of renders it a little bit less useful if you're using it for listening to yourself while you're playing or something like that. So that is something to be mindful of too. I want to add here too that there are like those little mini, not interfaces, but they're little mini guitar plug-in jacks to your phone. I think K Multimedia makes one where you can just like plug your guitar into your phone and jam. So like it's also a great way to write down ideas if you don't want to like angle your phone and look at you. I generally prefer having the camera look at me while I'm playing, so I remember what I'm playing and I also hear it at the same time. But if you want to like mess around with specific tones or any ambience or things like that, that is an option too.
Yeah, and even if you're using your phone to record basic demos, like we can do that. We can make awesome mixes just on the phone through a GarageBand on the phone or
iPad or something.
So any sort of like those interfaces that allow you to connect directly into your recording software on your tablet or your phone, super useful and usually not crazy expensive. So
typically not.
One thing to potentially throw on your list. Now here's a little bit of a weird one. You could ask, like something you could get for the holidays is ask for someone to get you your own merch. It sounds a little weird, but when you buy merch to sell, there's an upfront cost to it. You have to buy the shirts, buy the mugs, buy the keychains, buy the pens, buy whatever it is you're going to sell in advance that you can then sell at your booth, sell online, whatever it is you're going to be doing. In order to make it so that what you get is just full profit, maybe test a new design, maybe try things out, maybe you're just getting started and don't want to invest a certain amount right off the bat. Say, hey, can you get me, a dozen or so of this product or whatever it may be? And then when you do sell it, it's all product. You can test it to see if it works, if it sells, what price it'll sell at no upfront risk on your own end. Yeah. And if whatever reason it doesn't sell or doesn't rock or whatever, well, now you've got something that has your music, your brand on it that you can use. Yep. So with, once again, no cost to it. It becomes a gift for you. So that it's a little weird one, but stickers, all that stuff. That's a kind of a interesting, unsexy way to get around it.
It is. It's a little bit of a weird one, but like the purpose is good though, I think. Yeah. At the end of the day, I know I would probably prefer to do that because there's like way less risk doing it like that. Yeah. Worst comes to worst, like you said, you just don't sell them or you keep them to yourself or whatever the case may be. You
regift them.
Or you regift them, right? It is a great way to kind of get into it and kind of get those samples moving, so that way you can kind of see like what the quality is between this manufacturer versus the other one or whatever the case may be. And they may even have holiday sales too. So definitely something to look into.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna list one more thing, one or two more things, and then we're gonna just kind of jump into a lot of the more music creation tools that aren't the instruments, that aren't software, but are just very necessary to have. Before I dive into that, I'm going to do another really weird one. And we're going to talk about voice care products. If you're a singer and you're performing night after night and you use your voice all the time, you're going to want to do things to take care of that voice. So you don't strain it, you don't hurt it, you don't break it. Teas, sprays, humidifiers.
Yep.
These are great tools to just kind of make sure you're able to perform vocally at tip top shape and you don't lose your voice throughout the hour-long set that you're performing.
Yeah. I mean, even like programs that offer vocal warm-ups or something like that are even very helpful.
Yeah.
I would put that under here.
Back under education.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, you said here.
What?
Whoops.
What? Oh no, that works too. Yeah, either one definitely applicable because it is software based.
Yeah, and it's a voice care product. It can be both. Yeah.
Yep, it can
It's
be both.
a Venn diagram. It intersects. With both
Or
of them.
tuning keys or
Yeah,
forks.
tuning
Tuning forks.
forks.
Yeah, that's super helpful. The tuning whistles or whatever the fuck they're called. Those are really helpful too in case you need a certain pitch or something. So yeah, definitely good stuff to have.
Yep. Next thing we're going to tackle real quick is tuning pedals. We brought it up earlier, but these things,
They're great.
super great.
Yeah.
And you can get all sorts of varieties of them. You can get pedals like this. You can get the SCART whatever,
Yep, the snarks. Yep.
the snarks. You can get software tuners if you do a lot of things in Pro Tools or whatever your DAW is. You can get a plug-in ones you can just plug in, tune, and then record. Now, there's so many versions of these for a reason. They all perform a different purpose.
They do.
If you're performing a lot live and you're going to be on dark stages where you can't see a snark that doesn't have a well backlit, screen to it, you're going to want to get a pedal like that.
Yeah.
That's going to save your ass.
Yep.
Versus like, angle and light, I can't see.
Yeah. I mean, that's first of all, it's embarrassing because you gotta like wiggle around.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's very unreliable.
Yeah.
And like it causes a lot of stress that might not need to be there because you're already under stress when you're playing live. I was at I think I already told this story, but I'll make it quick. I was at a studio like about a month ago now, and I was using my snark. I couldn't see the screen at all. And like, it was like, I had to like cover it up and stuff. And like the situation wasn't as stressful because like we had time in between takes to tune up and everything. But even then, like I was like, okay, well, I can't see the screen. This is making it so much harder. So then I would borrow Mike's, shout out to Mike, who he would give me his snark and I would tune to that. And then it dawned on me too. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense because we should be tuning to the same thing. So that way we're both in tune with each other and not using a different tuner to tune, That might sound really dumb, but these do tune differently than each other. This one is a strobe tuner. Okay. This one is, I would argue, one of the most accurate ways to tune because you're technically never in tune with a strobe tuner. You're going to get as close as you can without moving that strobe in the middle. Now, this is a digital strobe tuner. There's a difference between mechanical and digital strobe tuners. So that's a caveat. The other one is just like a regular chromatic tuner like Boss makes or something. That one has less feedback when you get closer to being on pitch, right? This one has more feedback. So like you should be able to get a more accurate reading with that. And if you're using one of them versus the, and then, I mean, let's talk about snark too. That uses vibrations.
Yep.
And let's talk about guitar tuna. That uses your ears.
Yep.
So like these come with varying accuracies and inaccuracies that you want to make sure that you have a succinct reference point. Tuning is actually very complex. It's very complex and it's not given that credit.
No.
But that's kind of like why we're hammering it at home now.
Yeah.
Get a good tuner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get a tuner for, as you said, they're all different. They take different types. There's the strobing, there's the vibration, there's whatever it is. So get the tuner for what you're doing. Are you a studio musician where you really want to be as tight as possible? Get a strobe tuner.
Yep.
Are you a live musician that just needs a quick tune between songs you can knock out?
Get a Boss chromatic tuner.
Yep. So depending on what you do, put some thought into it, get the right thing for you. Are you a singer-songwriter who's just putting together some basic ideas so you can then shop it around? You can get away with a snark tuner or whatever.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if you're playing acoustic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because like, I mean, if you don't have to direct into your acoustic, you're going to have to rely on that.
Yeah. At the very least, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say get the one on your phone.
Or just get a piano player and then have him
and tune by ear.
Yeah, exactly.
But also like there's tuning for drums. If you get a drum head tuner or whatnot, there's tunings for all sorts of different instruments. Yeah. And then if you're playing a band instrument, there's different tuning inside. Anyways, it just gets
it's insane the complexity.
It gets
of these.
insane.
Yeah.
It gets very, very insane. All right, so now we're just gonna run through some of the, as I said, the basic tools that are necessary for music but aren't software or weird ones, but just, do you mind if I just kind of run through real
Go
quick
ahead.
and then we'll talk about it?
Rip it.
That would be stands, cables, and like a small PA system for any sort of thing that you're doing live. Stands and cables are good for also recording demos and whatnot, just to make sure that you have them in the back, something you can put the mic on, something you can run to your interface, something you can run to the sound guide, say, hey, plug this into the DI box or whatever. A DI box is another potential thing that you might want to go ask
that's
for.
a good one.
Yep. But these are just things that if you're doing acoustic sets or performing on your own, it just to have a couple of them and have at least one spare for when something breaks, when the nut gets over tightened on the stand and all of a sudden it won't stand up anymore.
The friction washer goes.
Yep, exactly. And I've done gigs where people bring their own stands and it's just
It just slowly sags throughout.
Yep. So have an extra one of that just to be safe. Those are some basic things to ask for in that regards. If you want to get more into the recording sound and the sound production aspect of thing, and you want to do the DIY things of it, some cheap soundproofing materials like moving blankets, materials for acoustical panels. You can ask for rocks wool, wood, whatever you want to build from like Harbor Freight or whatnot. Those are super quick, cheap, easy, whatever. But they allow you to help deaden your space so you can get better quality recordings. You don't see it, but to the left of the screen is a vocal booth that Brandon has in his studio that's made out of PVC pipe and moving blankets. And they get the job done.
It gets the
really
job done
well.
for what it does.
Really well. Last thing we're going to go over real quick is business. I'm just rapid firing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is business cards, things you can do to network with other bands. It's a business thing, but remember, you're a business. This is the music business. So having something that you can hand out to the venue or other bands, stay top of mind. Even if you're not playing, if you're familiar there or you meet someone who owns a different venue, you can hand them, hey, this is our band's card. We'd love to play where you're at. Just so that they know who you are and they have a resource to go back to for you. One thing that I highly recommend is they have these digital cards now. I use a brand called the Dot Card, where it's a QR code and also I'm trying to think of the chip, what the chip's called. Anyways, there's a chip in it where you click it to the phone. It's the same thing that does the touch contact.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So you can just click it to the phone, and all of a sudden it pulls up all your socials, it pulls up your website, it pulls up your contact information. They can just download your contact information in their phone. It's a great way to put everything that you want to give them in one tap, and then now they have all your resources, not just a business card where now you're relying on them to do it.
Right.
And if you also set it up with like an email thing or whatnot, or when they add you to their contacts, it syncs to your contacts or whatever. There's really cool technology related resources to do these sorts of things nowadays. So I personally have a Dot Card. There's other ones you can do.
Yeah, there's like Tabby Card. That's the one that I'm most familiar with. I need to grab one of these. They're really, really cool. The best part about these things is that, first of all, they break down the friction barrier a little bit more. So the person is more likely to go out and seek that information and not drop your business card on the ground. Number two is that you get to interact with them while you're doing it too, which is huge. Kind of puts a face to a name, so to speak, a face to a profile, a personality to a profile, which is really cool. So I definitely recommend those cards. They're so cool. And they're like pretty cheap, honestly. And they do have sales too.
Yeah. And it can lead to furthering the conversation as well, especially if you're on top of your social media game. If they click on like, oh, you're on Instagram, they click it and they're like, oh, this picture of you and the band we had last week here. Cool, you're friends with the band. So that they can, they'll vouch for you. Maybe we'll put together a set. Are you similar to them? Things like that. It could really work in your benefit to have them access to those things that you are then putting out there to do exactly that. Build interest so people want to invest in you.
Absolutely.
I did not phrase that last sentence very well, but that's okay because we're done.
We're done.
That's our list. Now
that's everything we thought of.
Let us know in comments what other things we might have forgotten, what weird things you've asked for in the past, some things that you find useful that are unsexy, or some software tools that you use that you think other musicians could use. Just anything that, could be useful. Or whatever, whichever you want to do. Let us know the coolest and the best music related thing that you've gotten for the holiday season as a gift in general. And before we cut this episode, before we end it, I want to ask Brandon that thing. Like, what's the coolest instrument or musical gear that you've gotten for any sort of reason, be it birthday, holiday, whatever?
That's a great question. I would say that I did get my Gibson SG for Christmas one year. That was a really great surprise. That was like my second guitar, and that was when I was starting to take guitar lessons really seriously, and my parents were gracious enough to grab me that for Christmas. And oops, I mean Santa. And that was like one of the most memorable Christmases. You know, I used that guitar for years. I don't touch it as much anymore. My tastes have kind of changed with the feel of the guitar, but I think that guitar really helped keep me motivated to keep going. And it also gave me different tonal options, because my first one was a Squire Stratocaster, and that's
Very
single coils, very different. And this one is a humbucker loaded SG. So it kind of introduced me to different tones too, which was great. And that was probably one of the coolest things. What about you?
I'm gonna have to go something more recent. For my last birthday, I just kind of had a piece of gear in mind. I never really been surprised by any sort of instrument thing. Actually, no. I'm gonna pivot real quick. The best instrument that I ever got as a gift was I got a ukulele from my Uncle Timmy. He came over. He's part of a band called Ukulele Kings. It's just
nice.
3 old dudes with ukuleles,
Yeah.
a soprano, a tenor, and a bass, baritone ukulele.
Nice.
And just old guys chilling, having fun playing. And he came over and he was playing the ukulele one day, and I'm like, that sounds beautiful. Like, this is like the best ukulele I've ever heard. He's like, yeah, I had it. It was hand built in Hawaii. I got it when I went down there.
Yeah.
When I tell me the story about it and whatnot. And I was playing for a bit because I'd never played ukulele before. I'm like, this is great. I was like, I don't know, sixth grade or something like that. And afterwards, when we were done, he was like, oh yeah, you can just have it.
That's cool, man. That's
I'm like,
killer.
what?
That's so cool, dude.
And to this day, it's the best ukulele I've heard in person. Because usually you see a ukulele, it's like, a $20, $30, $40 ukulele.
Yeah.
And it's so harsh and bitey and brittle. But this ukulele actually has some warmth to it.
That's great.
So that's my studio ukulele.
You should have brought it with you.
I should have.
I didn't know we were gonna do this segment. I would have pulled out the guitar too.
Nor did I. I just
I would have held it up for something, That's cool.
So let us know yours in the comments down below. We look forward to hearing the kind of things that you've received. With that all being said, thank you for listening this long into the episode. This is a long one.
This is a really long one.
A little bit longer than expected, but that's okay. We had a lot of things we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you for tuning in this long.
I got another story too. That's crazy, man. I just thought of another one. That's because I've been very blessed. But yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to derail you.
No, it's all good. We're just the outro. I mean, our outros are always chaotic.
They are.
So
they are.
Well
it's like trying to wrap everything up and throw everything in the dishwasher so you can clean the damn thing.
It's like that scene from Hell. It's like those scenes in Hell's Kitchen where it's like 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and the music gets all intense and Chef Ramsay starts swearing a little bit more. Yeah.
It's like, Brandon, we gotta fucking end this.
He needs to call me a donut one time.
Don't be a donut. That was such a bad. Anyways, moving on from that. You also don't be a donut and support us on as many platforms as you want to.
Nice.
We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, yada, yada, yada. We have podcast clips that kind of shorten it into bite-sized pieces of content that of certain important parts of our podcast. You can go back and listen to these things without us rambling on. And we also have some specifically made content that's been released and is planned to be released, more long-form stuff on YouTube, and some more specific shorts that go into certain kinds of aspects of past episodes and things that we don't necessarily cover on this podcast, things we think of after the fact, some stories, whatnot. So check all that out. Please follow, like, share this with other musicians that you're friends with that you think could also benefit from this podcast, because that really helps us get the word out there. Spread it like butter on toast.
Spread it like some Christmas joy.
Christmas joy. Yeah.
Is that nice?
It is nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
I
like the decorations back here.
Thank you. Decorations, and we got the fire. So if you're
we
watching on YouTube, and we got the green and red lights too.
Yeah, we're very thematic.
We're
today.
decked out with Christmas time. I
that
love
pun?
Christmas.
That was a good pun. Decked out.
Decked out.
Decked out.
Deck the halls.